Hello, everyone, and welcome to Simply Recollective, where we recreate by grace through faith. I'm Valerie, and here you'll find simple, creative tutorials to help you craft, design, and create things with ease. Whether you're just starting out or looking for fresh inspiration, my goal is to make crafting simple, fun, and faithful. So let's jump right in. To get started, you need to cut out all your petal layers using the light grip matte fine point blade and any Cricut machine. You're going to need 8 petal layers per rose. So however many you want to make, multiply that by 8. You can make this version using crepe paper as well. First, I like to add some dimension to my layers. I use distressed inks, but there's no right or wrong way to do this. There's a lot of different methods. It just takes practice. For these classic red roses, I like to darken my edges, so I'll start with black and lightly shade the centers where the petals meet. I blend up and outward so that the inking is darkest towards the center. You can also add some dimension around the edges as well. We'll darken those last with a dark burgundy alcohol ink, and I use a blending marker. And you're going to just continue this process around the entire petal layer. Now, to deepen the dimension, I prefer to fold up my petals so I can work on one at a time. It's just easier that way. So just continue to deepen that dimension around the edges until the contrast is to your liking. Next step is shaping our bottom 4 layers. No need for fancy tools if you don't want. I use the yoga mat and fondant tools. You start by curling the petal centers upward and then flip it over and shape the individual petal edges the opposite direction. You can also add a little bit more detail and ruffle the edges with different tools. It's a personal preference. This is just how I do mine. Now use something slow and begin shaping the curl of your edges. I go back and curl the whole petal shape afterwards with something like a permanent marker that's a little bit thicker. You're going to continue this process for the bottom 4 petal layers, so half of your cut pieces. The top 4 letters will be shaped more curled upwards towards the center. So I like to use my palm to shape these for a tighter upward curl instead of the mat. It just makes it a little bit easier to glue as you go. We'll do more shaping as we go, but for now we're going to start assembling. The center bud will be tightly curled, all sides touching. So you're going to start by curling one individual petal as tightly as possible. Now do this without tearing the paper because you can make it curl too much and have a tear, and that's going to ruin it. Fold the starting petal towards the center and bring the opposite petal to meet it. Wrap it around the center petal and then glue it in place. You're going to continue this process until all the petals are glued together tightly. This is your bud of the rose, so you want everything touching and tightly curled. Just to make it pop, I like to darken the top edge of my center bud a little more after it's assembled. The next petal layer, the second one, will be just a little bit slightly less tightly curled upward. So you're going to add some glue to the underside of that center bud you just finished. Glue it in place in the center of that second layer, but you want it to be not offset. We're going to want this layer to mimic the center, just not so tightly overlapping. So pinch the edges so that there's a little gap between the center bud and the second layer, but you still want to glue all these layers touching, so just a little bit more loose than you glued the first centerpiece. And you're going to curl the unglued edge inward tighter and then glue that one in place right there. It can be a little difficult to see, but you're basically repeating the same process a little bit looser. Now, once all of that second layer is glued, touching in place, you're going to again add glue to the underside and now glue that in the center of the third layer. Again, you're going to align the petals on these layers, not offset yet. The third layer petals, you're going to add glue halfway up the petal. Hold it in place until set and continue repeating that process until all the third layer petals are glued halfway up the second layer. Once you have two petals glued halfway up, you're going to tuck one side of the previous petal inside so that the petals are overlapping on this layer as well. You're going to repeat the process until all the petals are glued in place. So you want each petal tucked inside the other, overlapping on this layer as well. Once your third layer is glued, you want to go ahead and stop and add a little bit of dimension again in shaping. So mimic natural ruffles of rose petals. We're going to start on the third layer next, aligned again, not offset yet. This is the layer that we'll start shaping downward. So use a thicker rod to curl the petals away from the center bud. So not the bamboo skewer anymore. You need something a little wider. I like to roll it. You're basically just going to want your curl to start flowing downwards. For this layer, you're only going to add glue along the bottom edge where both of the petal layers meet, the third and the fourth layer. And you're going to continue that process around until all the petals are glued in place. Now add a rough curl to the petal tips after you've glued that layer in place. Okay, fifth layer. This is the layer that will start a slight offset to the petal layers. So you're going to add glue to the bottom and glue that fifth layer in place. But instead of being perfectly aligned, you want to slightly offset it. Also, this is a layer that I like to curl the petals in opposite directions. So you're going to alternate between an upwards and a downwards curl around the entire layer. Again, on this fifth layer, you're only going to add glue to the bottom edge where the petals layers are meeting. So where the fourth and fifth layer meet, you add a little drop of glue there. It doesn't look so pretty yet, but trust the process. I promise they're stunning. So a little more offset on the sixth layer than we did on the fifth. Again, add glue to the bottom underside and glue that in place. You'll notice when we glue this sixth layer in place, you can start seeing the rose take shape. Repeat the process for the sixth exactly how you did the fifth. Once you're on the seventh and eighth layer, you're only going to add glue to the underside of the petal layers, stacking these alternating completely offset. No need to add any more glue to the edges. We're going to let these fall down. So your seventh and eighth layer should have a just natural fall to them. You just glue the middles and that's it. You can touch up any shaping if you want, add some more curls, more dimension, whatever you like. All right, someone asked me how I do my stems and leaves, so I'm throwing that in as a bonus for you guys. I just use floral wire tape and some crepe paper cuts. So I cut about a 3 to 4 inch piece of the wire, dip it in glue, And then you're going to add it to the center of the crepe paper leaf. Fold it and crease the leaf so the wire's glued in the middle. And once that's dry, you can just shape that leaf edges outward. Add a drop of hot glue to the skewer and then wrap the wire and the leaf around. Once that's dry, you can use another drop of glue to the bottom underside of the rose and attach your floral tape. And then you just wrap it around. After I'm done covering the entire skewer, I will usually go ahead and if I want to add another leaf, I might, but usually I just stick with 2 per rose and shape them a little bit better. And that's it. You're completely done. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope to see some roses soon. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and